And that's Sam right there, Long Way Back. We're showcasing from the DEATHPROOF album, which literally just dropped this week. Chatting live with Sam in Idaho. Sam, how you doing, man?
Great, man. Just awesome to be here.
Yeah, man. It's great to have you on, man. Great chatting to you. So, obviously, part 2 right now, we want to jump straight into more music-based, man. Find out about how you put this album together and all the kind of details. And why is it called DEATHPROOF as well?
Yeah, so DEATHPROOF, I think, is just... I believe that we are death-proof. I believe that death is kind of illusory, especially for us believers. Death's not the end, and I think that we live in a very death-obsessed culture right now. And it's kind of just like the ultimate taboo. We put people, in hospitals and homes to die and kind of just don't want to talk about it. But I believe that, death is, for me, I believe that the day I die is going to be the best day of my life, really. I think it's going to be just the beginning of so much more. And, I think that's something that, I've walked people to death's door, and it is a very uncomfortable topic to talk about, even as a believer. Somebody's going to die, and it's like you want to dance around that subject. But I think that we're called to address that head on, death and the implications of death and, what people do with their life. Because we really do. We get one life to live, and we get one death to die, right? And then after that, it's like, what's next, right? And if our souls are death proof, I think that it begs the question, what's really important in life? If all of this is going to pass away and we're going to continue on after this is over, it at least for me, it forces me to readdress some priorities and where I'm headed.
Yeah.
So the album was written, it's been done for about 1.5 years now. I'm really bad at releasing stuff, but a lot of it, again, is just about personal struggles and things that I experienced in the world. My first album was probably, really, I wrote it as a baby Christian, my kind of salvation experience, meeting Jesus and meeting God, and it kind of chronicled that whole journey. And I feel like this album more details some of the tough questions that come after like the fluffy cloud is over, right? Because there's like this honeymoon period when you meet God and meet Jesus for the first time, and then there's this period. I feel like after that honeymoon period, your faith is really tested because it's opened up to the outside world, and you have to go out there and proclaim it, and you have to hear the things that people say in response, and you have to, make peace with all that stuff and justify and reconcile it in your head. And yeah, this album was kind of that process for me.
Yeah, man. I know what you're saying there, man. That's very true, I think, where you know what I mean? Like I'm quite blessed that I work from home and I don't have to go out into, say, an industry type workplace, where I might be surrounded by other people, but a lot of people who are believers are, and they're thrust back into real world very quickly, where they might discover like other people's views against Christianity kind of thing. So I praise God that I'm not in that situation, but there's so many people that are. So I think that what you just said is going to hit home with a lot of people, man, that they have to they're influenced by what other people say and believe, when you got to try and hold your ground and be like, I believe in this, like Jesus is real. And yeah, man. So DEATHPROOF, man. I was going to say to you just before that was that when you were last on, I can't remember which track it was, but in general we were saying I was saying to you, I was really happy with what you're doing with your music, man, because it sounded like you're putting a lot more emotion into your music, and I think you were combining like the rock with the hip hop as well, and it was, like you just then it was like you were starting to open the door to who you really wanted to be with your music. So have you found that as well when it comes to this album?
I feel like that. And I think I know the song you're talking about is I wish that I could fly song.
Yeah, that's the one.
And that song actually was made after this album was done. So yeah, I've held on to this album for a minute. I feel like this album was kind of the beginning of that. I've always been a huge rock fan. I was a metalhead as a kid, but I never really explored my own vocal reach, I guess, for lack of a better word. Singing and just aggressive delivery are things that I didn't really delve too much into, and I have definitely been allowing myself to experiment a little bit more. I suffer from self-doubt, definitely. That's something that I pray down, and social anxiety, just kind of caring what the world thinks of me. And I think that I'm being healed of that. I really do. I believe that with being healed from that, I am able to kind of go in and express myself a little bit more honestly, a little bit more transparently in not just my lyrics, but in how I deliver my stuff. And I love it. I'm really happy with the direction it's going. That said, every time I finish a project, I'm in hate with it. I think a lot of artists can relate to this. You get something done and you're on to the next thing, and you kind of start hating the thing that you just got done. Yeah. So I struggle with that. I've really been blessed by the positive responses for DEATHPROOF, because right before I released it, I was considering just shelving the whole thing. And after releasing it, it's blessed people, and I've heard feedback from people that have been real touched by it. And music speaks to people, man. There's no doubt that music is something that can either positively or negatively influence the listener. So I'm just happy to be able to positively influence people with what I do.
Yeah, man, I think that's right, man. I think that, someone else was saying that, I think last weekend, was saying that it's a spiritual thing for a lot of people, music, you know what I mean? Like, whether or not they want to admit to it or not, it tends to be like, because it can reach someone to their core, you know what I mean, and touch them. So especially if you come with a strong message, and DEATHPROOF seems to be that, man. Like, you're right, man. A lot in the culture we live in today, no matter, I mean, we have it in England, we have it in there in the States, Western world. Who knows if it's the Eastern world as well, but it's definitely a commonplace thing where people they want to either overlook death or they don't even want to chat about it, you know what I mean? It's like a sore subject almost.
Yeah, absolutely.
What I did say on the album, you got like a lot of tracks on there. Like, it's a good, solid piece of work, right?
Yeah, I think there's 15 tracks total on it, so not quite as much as my debut LP, but yeah, it's a full project. And
in terms of, like, you made that before you made the other one, like you on last time. So what does that mean for the future now? Are you still holding on to tons of music, or have you got something, like, you got a fresh mindset now?
Oh man, I'm so excited about things that are going on right now. I do have a bunch of old music. I probably have about 30 tracks that are unmixed, unmastered, but I'm not sure if those will see the light of day anytime soon, because I teamed up with this producer named Jay Nahilo, who is just an incredible, sold-out brother in Christ, man. He worked for Warner Brothers and Capitol. Incredible producer. He's just phenomenal. And we've started a project together where, I'm doing vocals and he's doing production and engineering. And it's just, man, I think that it's a game changer for me. I think it's far and above beyond anything I've done so far. I've teamed up with some incredible artists. I don't know if y'all have heard of Canton Jones. I got 1K Few on the project. Yeah. Who else? Selah the Corner is supposed to be on there. So it's just some artists that I really admire. There's been doors opening that have just really, really got me on fire for this project, and thinking that God's hand is really, really in it, man. So yeah, I do have some unreleased stuff, but I think that I'm probably going to hold on to that stuff for a little bit longer and focus on this project we're working on right now. Is called Heroes Lament, and I don't want to try to promo it too hard while we're talking about DEATHPROOF, but I am very excited about, just where God's leading me and all the doors that he's been opening for me.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm sure it's going to happen, man. He's going to open more doors for you, man. And have you found since the Extreme Tour that, obviously, like you said, you're strengthened, like, with yourself, but has it helped you in your career at all as a musician? Have you been able to kind of shout out, like, is that like a stamp on your career, like you've done that,
Yeah, I think I don't know so much that it has helped my career. It's definitely, I think that it gave me some very necessary personal growth that I needed before my career could progress. And I totally believe I'm a believer in prayer to the point of, like, superstitiously believing in prayer. I believe that my career won't be blessed if I don't have everything. I don't believe that I should pray for my career to be blessed or want it to be blessed if I don't have everything in my personal life in order. I really don't. And I think that if I'm put into a leadership role, I better be 100%, really. And no one's 100%, so that's foolish to even say. But I better be well prepared. That's not something I want to take lightly. If I'm given charge to talk to people who might be struggling in vices and addiction and questions and depression, if I'm struggling in things as well, and I believe that the Extreme Tour, it forced me to confront some kind of inner demons, first of all, some anxieties, and just some things that I've been carrying my whole life. It really did kind of put them in the forefront. It was a catalyst for very necessary growth that I didn't realize it at the time, but I've needed my entire life. I've needed the stuff that the Extreme Tour brought to me. So I don't believe that my career would have progressed any further if I hadn't addressed those things and hadn't reconciled those things to God and given them to God. So I'm very thankful for that.